Welcome to Italian Night. On the menu we have chicken fettuccine Alfredo with a side of garlic bread, and for dessert we have Oreo Crusted Chocolate Pie. We hope you'll be dining in on the Kenster Cooking Show. Alright everybody, what is up? I am super stoked to be here. This episode I am making as a special shout out for all the college students that are returning home for Christmas break, whatever your school. And maybe you're not even in college. Maybe you have someone that you want to please, a special him or her or she or grandma or grandpa, whoever it may be. Whoever it is, if you want to impress them, I'm going to teach you how to do that with Italian Night at your own house, in your own kitchen. Let's get started. So, in the background, we have two whole chicken breasts, two large chicken breasts that have already been cooking. They also have chopped onions and a crushed garlic. You can do either chopped garlic or crushed garlic. I chose crushed garlic. That's what we had in the fridge today. Anyway, those are sitting back there. What we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to push all this off to the side. And we'll get going. So the first thing we're going to start with is the chocolate pie. This thing you can start a little bit earlier in the day. The great thing about it is that once you get it done, it's really quick. Once you get it done, you can just put it in the fridge. You're golden. So this is the first part that you want to get done and get out of the way though, because as soon as this is done, you can focus on other aspects of the dinner. So to begin with, as you can see, we have an Oreo crust chocolate pie, or an Oreo crust pan. You can get these at Walmart. I'm sure you can get them just about anywhere, to be honest, that you can get pie crust. But the reason that we went with this is since we're already doing a chocolate pie, we figured we might as well just make it a little bit fancier, add a little bit more chocolate to it. And it's just something out of the usual that people usually don't have. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get this bad boy open, take this lid out, and we're just gonna set that off to the side. Now, once we have that, we can just set it away. Next thing we need is a box of chocolate jello, or chocolate pudding. Jello makes everything. It's chocolate pudding. Don't buy chocolate jello because that doesn't exist. So, regardless, what we're going to go ahead and do is just pull out this package, just like that. We'll throw the box off to the rest of the side, and then you'll need a whisk, you'll need a mixing bowl. Let me put this to the side as well. Actually, we'll put that up there. And then you'll need a measuring cup. They can measure cups. This measuring cup can measure 2 cups at a time. We're going to need 4 cups. And the first step that we're going to do, we're just going to take this, open it, and we're just going to pour it right in the bowl like that. Now, if you watched the last video and you saw the snowy pretzels, you'll understand that this is also a very hard recipe. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab some milk, and then we'll get back to it. So, be right back. And we are back. Now, this could be classified as a triple chocolate pie if you really want to, if you're feeling fancy. I'm going to go ahead and save these bags, they're useful. We're also going to crush that up and put that into here. So, right here we have Anderson Erickson 2% milk fat, chocolate milk. So we're going to measure out 4 cups of this. And I want you to note also that if you guys use, I believe it's soy milk, and if you give me a second, I will look on the package. If you're cooking this, you can use substitutes to an extent. A lot of it goes into the consistency. Some of it goes into the actual makeup of it. Soy milk. You cannot use soy milk with chocolate pudding, just as a warning. If you do, the pudding won't set, and you'll just have a really runny thing of pudding. Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna measure out 4 cups, and we're just gonna pour it in just like such. And once we get that, we're gonna go ahead and just, I guess I should probably move that. We're just gonna whisk this up. Make sure that you can try as much as you can, and it can be difficult too just because of the consistency. As much as you can, try and make sure that there are no like balls of the dry ingredients clumping up. Past that, it is really simple. Now, once we're done whisking this up, there's another thing that you can do is if you have a whisk is just kind of run it around in your hands like that. That'll help just kind of really chop things up that need it. And so once we get this out of the way, we can go ahead and put this in here. Put the lid back on the milk. we're gonna set this in the fridge for 1 to 2, 3 minutes or so. So I'm gonna I'll quick vamp this to get there. But that's just gonna help this set up a little bit. But note to self, you don't want this to set up all the way. Mostly because once this sets up all the way, it's gonna be the same consistency that's gonna be the end result consistency of the pie. And so if you do that, it's just gonna be hard. You're gonna have to like take a spatula and just kind of, yeah, it's just not fun. Personal experience. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these two things back in the fridge real quick. And as soon as I'm off camera, we will speed that up to make sure that they're right where we need it to be. So I'll see you guys in a minute. Alrighty folks, so we are now back. This has been in the fridge for roughly 2 to 4 minutes, but you can see it's still, and I want to show it without spilling it, it's still a very moldable substance, but it is thickened up a lot. And so what we did was we just crimped down the edges to the pie pan once again, so it looks nicer, and then we're just simply going to pour. Now, the best advice that I can give you is that depending on how much you have space in the pie thing, also be cautious of that because you don't want to overflow it, overfill it. And so the other best advice that I can give you, after I try and get that from not dripping everywhere, is to just make sure that when you guys are putting this, or when you guys are pouring this, is that this bowl, as you see, has a divot in it, meant for pouring. If you get a mixing bowl that's not, it can just be a little bit difficult just because this is a thicker substance. And so given how big the bowl is and whatnot like that, you could have a mess on your hands. But now that we have this in here very carefully, we're gonna put this in the fridge and we're just gonna let it chill for the rest of the night until you guys are ready to eat. Past this, if you guys wanna add any, a couple days ago, I'll put it this way, I made one of these, and one of the things you can do if you wanna make it fancier, you can add chocolate shavings, you can add whipped cream. You can also add Pepperidge Farm Miliano cookies, which it's like the cookie, the chocolate and the cookie, if you guys want to do that. Or if you guys just want to eat it like this, that's entirely fine. So we're going to put this in the fridge, and then we're going to go ahead and move on to the next thing. Now, this is the point that everything is going to try and pick up pace. Everything is going to pick up pace during your dinner. So like I said, you're going to want to put this in and get this far out of the way before you guys start cooking dinner or ready for dinner. Now that you guys are ready to cook dinner, you'll want it to be about roughly 45 to 30 minutes before you guys are going to eat, just to give you guys enough time, depending on, you'll want to thaw out the chicken well beforehand if the chicken is frozen. You'll also want it diced up, but we'll get to that in a second. For now, we're going to put this in the fridge. Alright, now before we begin with the next part, I'm just going to run you through what we've got going on behind the scenes and in front of the camera. So first off, one of the things you're obviously going to need some fettuccine noodles. You can pick these up. Depending on how many people you're serving is going to depend on how many noodles you're going to need. About one box, and actually I'll just read it to you. One box can serve 8 people. Just depends on how many you eat, how many servings. Obviously 4 people if each person eats 2 servings of noodles. So regardless, that's what you're going to be needing for that. If you have a small family, 1 box, obviously just go off what the box says. The next we have Bertolli Chicken Alfredo, or Garlic Alfredo sauce, forgive me. This is the same stuff that we use in the stuffed shell recipe. It's a favorite of my family's. It's something we all enjoy, so this is why we have this today. And also having the garlic in the sauce already just helps it add a little bit more flavor. And then in the background, I had already talked before, we had 2 large chicken breasts already cooking with chopped up onion and crushed garlic. Those are going to be cooking in the background. We're actually going to flip to over there in a minute. But also with that, so when you, for me, I'll just put you guys in my instance. You make sure that your chicken is mostly thawed out. If you can, make sure it's all thawed out, but you don't want to over thaw it too. Yeah, you don't want to leave it like just sitting raw on the counter for, for a couple hours. So one of the things though, that as soon as we put it in the pot, we added some Mrs.Dash's garlic and herb. It's just a seasoning just to kind of put on there, give the chicken a little bit more flavor, because what happens is when you're cooking it, the chicken's going to soak up some of those juices, some of the flavor of that, and so that's just going to be a nice addition with the whole dish. So we are going to move over there in a moment. I'm going to get everything set up, and there's a cat sitting on the table. So I'm going to take care of that, and I'm also going to get everything moved over there. So we will see you guys in 3, 2, 1. Alrighty, folks. So what we have going on right here is we have the chicken cooking. This is mostly just, all this has been is cooking the chicken. Once the chicken is cooked, that's when we added the onions and the chopped garlic. Right here we have a half a pot of water and a tablespoon, roughly, a little bit under, of salt. This is directly for the noodles. So now that this is already boiling, and that's your goal, once this is boiling, we can go ahead and add in the noodles. So very carefully, because the water is boiling, it's liable to splash. We're going to go ahead and just kind of put those in here. Make sure that no new noodles are going to fall out onto the stove cooktop. And there we go. Make sure all those are out of the box. We're just going to set the box off to the side for now. Push some of these in, and we're just going to let these sit. So for right now, these are, because the water is so hot, the noodles, obviously they're going to absorb the water. That's how noodles get noodlier. We're just going to set that off to the side. Now with this, we've been cooking on a medium heat. The chicken's been cooking on a medium heat as well as everything else. For the past couple minutes, it's been on a simmer because the chicken is ready. So we're going to grab a large a large pot. There's names like saucepan, stuff like that, but anyway, we're going to take one of these, and then we're going to take a slotted spoon, and we're going to just pull everything out of there. You can do this as a method of draining the chicken, but for time's purposes, this is just easier to do than going to try and drain the chicken and getting everything done. We're also going to turn this down now. We're going to turn that down to about a mid-heat, since we do have time, and there's no reason for the water to be boiling because the water has already met the temperature that it needs to be. So in the meantime, we're just going to add this. And it's fairly simple, so we're going to go ahead and speed things up. So, see you in a second. Alrighty, folks. Forgive me, I had a battery to my light die, so what ended up happening was I just ended up taking a break. Everything is kind of done, so the noodles are actually done. The best way that you can tell if the noodles are done, if you're wanting to impress somebody, in the past, people have always throw the noodle against the ceiling, if it sticks, whatever. I don't know. The reason I don't know is because I don't think that that's very, it just seems messy. I like things to be nice and organized and clean, especially if you're trying to cook a dinner that's going to make your parents happy, or for a spouse or a loved one, whoever it may be. You don't want to really be making a mess of things. It just, I don't know, unless you guys want to have fun. You can do that, look up whatever it is. But for me, the best way that I can tell if a noodle's done is once it becomes pliable enough that they're going around to the pot. It's bending the way a normal noodle would bend. At that point, you just take the spoon, scoop one out, pick one up, let it cool off for a second, and just eat it. And obviously, if it's still chewy, you put it back. Don't put it back in, but you cook the rest for longer. If it's ready, you'll definitely be able to tell. So anyway, we still left off with just the chicken in the pot. So what we're going to do is, now that we have 2 of the garlic Alfredo sauces, we're just going to add both of these to the pot. And you want to make sure to, now the last time that I cooked this, I actually ended up, when it was finished, the sauce was just below the line of the pot, which is obviously, you don't want that, because if something were to bubble up or whatever, it just makes a mess of things. So just kind of judge by what you have in your arsenal of pots and pans, and judge accordingly as far as what size of pot you need. For this one, especially since we're just working with the sauce, I want it to be a deep pot so that if the sauce bubbles up or anything like that, I don't have to worry about it coming over the edge or whatever like that. Since we took the break, I had taken the noodles off the stove. Right now they're just cooking at a low heat. What we're gonna do with these two actually is I'm gonna step off camera. Now that we poured them both out, you're gonna fill them with water about halfway or so, and then you're just gonna shake them vigorously, try and get the rest of that sauce. It'll help lighten up the sauce as well on this end. So I'm gonna hop off camera real quick, we'll get that taken care of, and then we'll go into the final segment. So I'll see you guys in a second. All right, man, that was really fast. It's a miracle what that can do. So anyway, like I said, we just filled these up about halfway. You're just gonna take these, make sure the lid is on because you don't want to make a mess. You just shake them up a little bit, and then just pour the rest of that in. Like I said, it's just gonna help lighten up the sauce just a little bit. And it depends if you don't want to have a very pie sauce. There's a little bit more water. You'll want to do it so, say that this is where you're at. You want to just fill it up about there, so you don't want to overwater it down too. That is a concern. So we're gonna set these off the camera, and then what we're gonna do. This is gonna be about 5-10 minutes before you want to eat. So go ahead and put this back on, and then we're just going to put this at a medium heat because obviously since we took the chicken off, that's one more thing to cool down. But also since we're in a state that we have all this liquid in here, that's a lot of mash that's been at a room temperature, and so this is all going to have to cook up. And so we just threw a lid on it just to make sure that if anything bubbles up, it's just going to hit the lid and splash back down. I'm going to take care of this real quick, and then we'll be right back to our final segment. Alrighty folks, and now we're at the final segment, which is the garlic butter. So this is one of the neat things to me, and it's a great addition, and I'll tell you why it's a great addition. It's a side dish that you can have. Having side dishes always helps for anything, you know, it just helps stretch the meal further. It also just presents better whenever you're presenting the food. And so one of the things is that you can do, and this one is also, you have to be kind of particular about it, is that when you're going to make the food, you'll want to pick up the loaf of bread either the day of or the night beforehand, because this is bread with minimal preservatives. You know, this has actually come from Walmart. So this is $1. This is $1 to $2 depending on where you're at. But it's a great combo. You know, that can just top off the meal and it looks great. So we're going to go ahead and untie this and cut her open and go from there. So this is also one thing I should mention is that this is a garlic and herb loaf of bread, and so seasoned bread. I don't know if that's the better way of saying it. So you just take your bread knife. You're going to cut it in half once, just so it fits on a standard cookie sheet. And then once you cut it in half, I'm just going to set this over here for a minute. You're going to cut it down the middle, and you're going to cut it fairly deep, so you can kind of see. You can cut it fairly deep, and that's so you can get that spread in there really good. I'm also, because I cut it at an angle, I'm going to cut it at another angle, just in the loaf just a little bit, just to help when all that starts melting. It's just going to give it a lot more flavor, let that spread further. And so we're also going to do the same right here. We're just going to slice it right down the middle. You don't want to go past the butt of the bread though. So you don't want to break this, just making sure it's at the top. You can kind of see where that separates. And then I went ahead, and there's a seal on these. I went ahead and took the seal off just because they're a little bit difficult to get off sometimes. And so all you're gonna do is just take a butter knife, and you're just gonna put this all on the inside. And it's okay if you smear it in there and you put a lot in, and it can all go to preference, but I found that it works best if you actually kind of coat it in there a lot, because what's gonna happen is that as it bakes, it'll the bread will sort of absorb it like a sponge. And so it gives the bread a really good flavor. It just helps it in general. You know, some things you can't explain as well as you wish you could for why they're great. But so anyway, we're gonna do this though, and this is gonna go into the oven at 350 right before, about 5 minutes before you guys want to eat. Now the other part is that you're gonna have to take a little bit of responsibility to just make sure, be watching. You don't want the bread, and this is the key point that I will say when it comes to the bread, is you don't want the bread to be at a point that it's uncuttable. And that is, what do I mean by that, is when you put the bread in and you bring the bread back out, if the bread has been cooked for too long, you'll take your bread knife and it won't cut open. The crust will get extremely hard. Just be like if you sat in the sun for a really long time, the outer layer of your skin would get like really, really tough and leathery. You know what I mean? The same principles go to bread. When you bake them for too long, that crust is going to get really, really hard, and the inside could still be soft, but you're not going to be able to cut it as well. So anyway, we're going to take a non-greased cookie sheet, set the oven at 350, and we're just going to put this in there for about 5 minutes. Like I said, just watch it. When you can kind of see that this area right here has hit that golden brown, that's when you know this is ready. So just taking a lot of paying attention. This is also when you can set the table, get everything ready, get all the drinks ready. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the oven, clean this up a little bit, and I'll see you guys in a few minutes. folks. So as you can see, and I'll make better note of this. So I was wrong, and actually I forgot mine. So give me 1 second, and then. So you may want to put it up to either a higher heat or put it in just a little bit earlier. Took a little bit longer than what I remembered, but you can hear this. It's cooked on the outside, and you can start to see a golden brown ring around the crust, and that's what you're going to want to look for. So give me 1 second. I apologize, a cat wanted to chew on my headphones. So the last thing that you're going to actually do, we're going to set this aside for 1 moment. Take some butter, and the next thing is you're going to take about roughly like a tablespoon, I believe it is, of butter, maybe, yeah, a tablespoon. Actually, that's better. And you're going to actually just cut it in half, and then you're just going to stuff it in every couple of inches. Put it like a piece of butter into where you put the spread, and that's also going to melt while the bread is hot. And once that melts, that's also going to kind of help soften up the bread on the inside, and yeah, it'll just add a little bit of that flavor too. So we'll do this, and when you kind of get to the end, you can either use your knife to spread the bread apart, or what you can do is you can put it in and then slide it up further with the knife, and that'll just help kind of get that the butter into that area. So yeah, and then past that, you guys are good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and round up everything so you guys can see it one more time, and we'll be saying our goodbyes, and you guys will be eating. So give me 1 moment. Oh, hey. Alrighty, friends. So that is your easy Italian night meal. So as you can see, we have the chicken and garlic Alfredo. The other thing that I'll say is that when you're cooking the sauce, if you want to add in a little bit more of that Mrs.Dash's garlic and herb spices, you can go ahead and put those in. It adds a little bit of color, adds a little bit of flavor. We have the bread, and you can see on the inside, you can see how delicious this looks. And the spread, it is phenomenal. And I will say it almost tastes kind of like a cheese, although it isn't a cheese. And then lastly, we have the chocolate pie. I want to say the pudding pie. The chocolate pie, it didn't set up as well as we wanted it to. However, it's still going to eat the same. So thank you guys so much for watching. God bless you. I hope you guys have a great meal. And as always, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. Or if you go to www.kdtiproductions.com/TKA, the Kenster Adventure, acronym TKA, you can find all of our stuff there. Or if you go to the Connect page, you can find, you can connect with us. So if you have any questions on this recipe, feel free to put it in the comments or on that Connect page. And most of all, I hope you guys enjoy your cooking. And for any of you guys that have a question about this, stay tuned for our later episodes. Until next time, peace.